So, during the late half of March, Studio Ghibli re-released Princess Mononoke in an IMAX restoration across the world. It has been a big success, taking in millions of dollars in its run, and of course, I was one of the many people lucky enough to have an IMAX somewhere near me to go and watch it. This was actually my fourth time watching the film now, as it's basically become a yearly tradition for me at this point to revisit this one in particular. My first experience with the film was a few years back when I was watching Ghibli films for the first time with friends, and then I watched it again on my own time when preparing my Miyazaki ranking list, and then I watched it again for the first time in theaters for the annual Studio Ghibli Fest. And now here we are at the 4K IMAX re-release, and it's interesting because pretty much all of these viewings of the films for me have been in entirely different environments. One was with friends, one was by myself, one was a theater rewatch, and one was an IMAX 4K. So many different ways of consuming a film, yet albeit the same film regardless. But even with that, I noticed something in my newest watch of Mononoke that hadn't really clicked with me before. See, within the first 20 minutes of my fourth Princess Mononoke viewing, I began to feel an overwhelming amount of emotion hitting me in the chest and in the eyes. And it sparked some confusion in me. I was just thinking to myself, why are you already emotional? The movie hasn't even started yet. And that's when it really started to hit me. Despite being so familiar with the story, having digested it multiple times to the point I could recount the events of the story beat by beat, I still felt as if I were watching a new film entirely. It's difficult to explain this in a way that fits the traditional, YouTube analysis video and whatever. But what I mean is that whilst watching Princess Mononoke a few days ago, I felt a sense of refreshment in myself that I didn't realize I had also had in my previous watches of it. Because in almost every different viewing, my mind had been focused on the story and the film in a completely different way. And yet with every approach of experiencing it, I still found it perfect. Like, this is just one of the best films ever, no matter what perspective I have when watching it. On my first watch, I thought it was a perfect film. Second watch, I thought it was even more perfect. Third watch, I still thought that. And now this time, I somehow find it even more perfect than those times. That is, of course, elevated by the sheer spectacle and quality of the IMAX experience, but that experience can't elevate something to this level unless it were already that good to begin with. And, well, Princess Mononoke is exactly that. I always gained new perspectives on the film whilst watching through it each go-through. First watch, I just wanted to see what the story was, and was pleasantly surprised to see just how amazing of a fantasy it was. Second time around, I began to really focus on the themes and more personal meanings in the film through Miyazaki's ideals and the way he approaches filmmaking. The third time around, it was primarily to just, experience it in a bigger scope and get immersed for a while again, in an environment that it was originally meant to be shown in. And here, well, it was the spectacle of it all that drew me in, because I knew I'd never get to experience the film in this form ever again if I didn't go this time. And even then, I somehow got even more than just the spectacle out of it. In fact, I felt myself engaging with it more critically than I did in any of my prior viewings, and yet I just could never find something that I didn't love about it. Not a single thing. Instead, I was just in awe of all of the little things. At many instances, I found myself picking up on tiny details in the film's presentation that I would have imagined to think about the previous viewings. For example, in the introductory scene of Okotsu, the leader of the boars, just a quick little note, I didn't realize this until I started editing my audio, but I had pronounced Okoto's name completely wrong. I was pronouncing it as Okotsu, which that isn't a character in the movie. I'm talking about Okoto, the king of all the boars, the one who leads them, the blind one that becomes a demon. Yeah, that guy, that's Okoto, not Okotsu. I don't know why I was saying his name like that. I'm very sorry. It's annoying, I know. But yeah, I just wanted to add this in here just to make sure you all know I realized that I was pronouncing it wrong this time instead of just me, prancing around with it. But yeah, anyways, back to the video. We see both Akutsu and his warrior boars roaring. When the boars roar, the screen is perfectly still and natural. The world is entirely unmoved, they're just regular boars. Yet when Akutsu roars, the screen begins to shake and vibrate. This is a very tiny detail that people don't really talk about because, well, for one, it's tiny, and two, it's obvious to connect that it means Akutsu stands above the rest of the boars to the point he can make the entire screen and world shake. But it's just not something you really process in your mind unless you watch the film multiple times, because it's such a tiny detail that still makes so much of a difference. That screen shake alone adds so much character emphasis and world building that wouldn't exist without it, and I can almost guarantee you that it was just something that some random person or even Miyazaki himself just said, well, what if we just make the screen shake when he roars? That'll get the point across pretty well. And then they just did it and it works perfectly. And it's the tiny things like that that got me thinking just how many perfect little details can exist in a perfect run of 2 hours. And the answer is, well, a whole lot. There's a whole lot of tiny things you could add in there. And there were many instances where I got like that, just picking out all of those little details that I loved. But there's still probably so much that I didn't pick up on with my obsessive filmmaking eye because of the fact that I was too busy being pulled into this world and story for the majority duration of the film, despite having already been so familiar with it. It's those tiny things that make films like this feel so new and so fresh despite how many times you've seen it. Because you're not simply just rewatching it, you're re-experiencing it. You're digesting it in a new way compared to every other previous way that you did. And it almost makes you feel like a completely new person going into a new film. And that's so fascinating to me. It's such a fascinating thing that I, discovered in myself when watching this again. It takes a film like this with so many layers of perfection in it to achieve something like this. Whether it be the masterful visual presentation of Ghibli that makes for some of the most stunning character and background work your eyes can feast on, the beautiful romance between Ashitaka and San that also connects us to the intimacy between nature and ourselves, that also juxtaposes with the ever-going war between man and nature, and the themes of environmentalism and the way industrialism has killed the spirit and soul of the natural world, or, just the incredible fantasy world building and atmosphere at display through such simple dialogue and storytelling devices, and of course, that amazing Joe Hisashi score that, oh my god, when I heard it on those IMAX speakers, I started floating. There's just so many layers to peel back, so many simple presentations that you can otherwise talk about for hours on end as their own topic, with every new viewing offering a unique interpretation on these things as if you were watching it for the first time all over again as a completely new person, different from the person you were when you watched it the last time. To put it a bit more bluntly, Princess Mononoke is a film you can talk about as if it were 10 different films, because this film alone has enough substance, style, flair, passion, and love in it to be worth an entire filmmaker's career. And this is just one of many masterpieces that Miyazaki has directed, and that's only just one of the most impressive things about it. And that, to me, is what makes a film truly immortal. When you can watch it again as if it were your first time all over again, yet come out with an experience that feels as if you really hadn't seen it before, in a way that almost makes you feel stupid for feeling that way, but it also makes you feel grateful that you're able to feel the things you're feeling for a work of art like this in the first place on multiple different viewings. It almost feels like a nostalgic look back on a past life, where you experience the same thing, yet in a completely new fashion, in a new environment. Yet even despite the difference in feelings and experience, one thing about it remains the same. It's still as perfect, if not more perfect than it was before, and you're only just realizing that after so many new viewing experiences. That to me is what I would describe as an immortal film, and no other film better fits this mold to me than Princess Mononoke, because I feel I could watch this so many times throughout my lifetime and never have the same experience or digestion of it. I will always feel the same love I have for it, yet also feel a new type of love towards it as well. And that to me is the most beautiful thing that art can create. And it's also why so many different works that try to imitate Princess Mononoke just fail, because they just don't have that heart to it. They don't have that factor of revisiting it as if you were a new person, as if it were a new film, because there just aren't as many layers to it. It is almost impossible to give a film as many layers as Princess Mononoke has, for it to tell one story that can be simple and concise, yet say a million different things every second, with only some of those things truly hitting you during one watch and others hitting you the next, making every viewing special and unique compared to your next and last viewings of it, making you want to continue revisiting it every single year of your life, because it just never feels old, yet never feels brand new either. More so feeling like it's just always existed, like it's always been there, because you can't really picture a world where a work of art like this just doesn't exist, because how could it not if it's as amazing and as perfect as it is? Like it needed to exist for things to be right in the world, like it was fated to exist. But that's going to do it for, my ramblings on Princess Mononoke. This isn't really a review, more so just me going over my most recent experience with it, and I hope you did enjoy listening to me ramble on a bit about this. If you did enjoy the video, leave a like, comment down below your favorite Ghibli movie, and well, subscribe to the channel if you're new. To all my new subscribers that want more Toku and Monogatari videos, I promise those are being done. My PC is not working the best right now, but I promise those videos have not been forgotten and they're still going to be done. So yeah, with all that being said, I will see you all next time. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.